Bitcoin crashed to the mid 61Ks last night, its lowest price in over 120 days, and everyone has been blaming Michael Saylor. Well, for the first time since we saw those sales, Michael Saylor has finally broke his silence, spoken up about it, and his reasoning for the crash might surprise you, but today I'm going to show you that he's not the only one saying and blaming this single factor that everybody's overlooking. So obviously, before I get into it, the context here, I think, is everyone is basically attributing this crash to Michael Saylor selling some Bitcoin. Now, obviously, it is a good narrative because, again, the guy that told you never to sell your Bitcoin has sold some Bitcoin. And some is the key word here. Again, Saylor's bought in what, like over 600,000 coins this year, or in the last year, maybe is better put. And he sold 32 Bitcoin. It's literally, I think the numbers was like 0.0038 or 34% of his entire holdings. He said that this was just kind of a test sale to inoculate the market. Well, you could argue that him selling has made a lot of people afraid and scared of Bitcoin, and maybe he is the reason. Again, if you're looking at the charts, if you're looking at the daily candles, there is a suspicious correlation between the day that Saylor sold Bitcoin and what the price has done since then. Short of it, it's been red. And we've crashed literally since Saylor has sold, again, tiny amount of Bitcoin. So obviously, that is kind of the prevailing narrative. If you're looking at the corporate press, if you're looking at a bunch of different headlines, that's what everyone is attributing the crash to. Now, one more caveat before I get into this. Yes, you could say that what Saylor is pointing to is cope. Maybe he is trying to divert attention away from his sales. Maybe he is one of the reasons that the price has cascaded downwards since that sale. But if it was just Saylor saying this, then I probably would agree with everyone saying, like, yo, this is Saylor just coping. He crashed the price. I actually saw a funny tweet this morning. It's like, dude, Saylor's such a genius. You know, if you got $1 billion to buy Bitcoin and you really want to get a good price about it, just sell a little bit. Price is going to crash. You scoop up Bitcoin at a lower price. It's a great buy. It's a great buy. But I really, again, looking at the data, I do try to be as objective as possible. I try to look at all of the data. And yes, obviously, I am human. I have a monkey brain. I have a 42 IQ. And it is very easy to blame Saylor here. Now, again, this last week, I have been trying to get to the bottom of where do I think the selling is coming from? What is actually causing the price to go down? Obviously, we can all just, I would say, get lazy and be like, it's the 4-year cycle, bro. It's playing out exactly as designed, bro. Like, we got to wait until Q4 of this year before the price finally bottoms, and then we're going to go back up. I really, even though at this point I might agree, I think it is kind of lazy thinking. You know, we're literally just leaning on memes to explain what's going on. It really doesn't tell you anything about what's actually going on underneath the hood here. So with that in mind, let's get to Saylor's tweet, which is this. Now, again, before I read it, I do want to say that Saylor isn't the only one that has been saying this, and this is why I'm kind of the same opinion that this might actually be the real reason. Though yesterday I did kind of blame Iran selling, or rather the U.S. Treasury sanctioning a couple of Iranian exchanges, and possibly that is where some selling's coming from. It could be all of this together. It might not just be one or the other. It's probably all of this, which does make me feel that, you know, maybe famous last words, the bottom is near. Though, if we can gauge sentiment based on how mad everyone is and all of the infighting, it does feel like a market bottom is here. Anyways, Saylor tweeted this morning. Again, 7:43, literally first thing he did in the morning. Crazy. He goes, capital markets are funding the AI build out at historic scale, roughly $400 billion over 6 months. Bitcoin ETFs have seen roughly $4 billion of outflows since May 14th, pressuring Bitcoin. This is a capital rotation, not a Bitcoin impairment. Volatility creates opportunity. So, again, first and foremost, probably the most obvious thing here in this tweet, is Saylor basically trying to maybe if you are of the belief that Saylor crashed, the price skirt responsibility, maybe he's like, you know, distracting us and being like, hey, yeah, maybe I'm the reason, but look over here, this is the real reason. I totally get that. But he does have a point here. And I have been of a similar opinion. As you guys know, if you guys are a Simply Bitcoin hardcore fam at this point, if you guys hang out with us every single day, you know I am not the biggest AI fanboy. I am kind of the opinion like the price valuations that we are currently seeing, the narrative around AI, I think it is overblown. I am of the opinion that I think we are in an AI hype cycle. And if you're looking at equities right now, you understand kind of one thing, that AI is basically the only thing keeping up the stock market, equities. It's basically the only thing that's keeping up GDP, and at least in America right now. Now, obviously, you can say that my bias is showing that I am I wouldn't say necessarily anti-AI. I do use AI, obviously. It is a cool tool. I just think that the hype around AI is overblown. I don't necessarily, like, yes, AI will change how we function and live in the world, which is very obvious. I'm sure you have already noticed in your daily life, whether it's like call centers, whether it's you on the internet support chats, it's like we're all talking to AI. Whether it's you on Twitter, everyone's reading AI slop. We're seeing interesting AI videos. If your parents are on Facebook, they're probably sending you AI videos. Yes, AI is fundamentally changing where we currently are. I just think that the recent narrative that we've seen surrounding AI is very interesting. And maybe you don't follow the AI conversation that much. Maybe you're just a hardcore Bitcoiner. You work your day-to-day job. You're not on social media like I am. But it is very interesting that in the last couple of weeks, we have seen a slight narrative shift around AI and what it's going to do for humanity, or maybe to humanity, whichever way you want to look at that. Couple of months ago, it was this whole idea like AI is going to change everything. You know, it's going to take our jobs. AI is going to usher in UBI. And literally in the last week, the shift has the narrative has fundamentally shifted, where it's like, okay, maybe AI isn't going to take all of our jobs. Maybe, you know, the labor force isn't going to get absolutely wrecked. Maybe UBI isn't coming. And everyone is kind of attributing this to, you know, recent IPOs that are happening. They're like, the IPO shift is happening. They kind of have to pivot away from overhyping AI because, you know, you kind of can't get caught overhyping something and then you dump on the public, which I actually haven't updated it. I haven't really looked. Did the SpaceX IPO launch, or I thought yesterday said it was about to. Anyways, we're seeing some historic IPOs that are just insane right now. But all right, going back. What we do know for a fact, and we've heard this conversation, I've actually played a couple clips on this show, that a lot of people from the, quote, crypto space, you can argue that some of them were Bitcoiners, hardcore Bitcoiners, have pivoted into the tech sector, specifically AI. And especially when you're looking at the current price action, again, if I'm being honest and objective here, I know, like throw tomatoes at the Bitcoin maxi here for pointing out the obvious. But if we are being honest here, yes, I think Bitcoin will fundamentally be the best performing thing the next 10 plus years. We did miss out on a lot of gains in the AI tech sector. You know, we're basically back to the prices of November 2024. It's the same. We've round trip from when Trump got elected as, quote, the Bitcoin president of the United States, and Nvidia and dang, I always blank on the name of it, like AMD and Micro. I always blank on this, Micro something. Basically, the AI companies, AI stocks, and the microprocessing for these AI, the microprocessing chips, they're blowing up. They're freaking just massive gains. So look, again, objectively looking at this, and maybe in the sober eye of a bear market, I can look in hindsight at the charts and be like, yeah, okay, you know, maybe it was a good move a year or two ago to invest in the tech AI sector. That's where all the gains are. You know, I can acknowledge that. I still think Bitcoin has got a lot of fuel left in its tank. I still think Bitcoin is going to take over the world. I still think Bitcoin has massive gains ahead of it. But in hindsight, as we've all been seeing in the last couple of weeks, or rather maybe the last week or so, or maybe a couple of months, depending, everyone is basically saying Bitcoin is dead. You know, why didn't Bitcoin run as high as gold in 2025? Why isn't Bitcoin doing as well as the AI sector? Well, you know, the entire economy in the United States is basically on the shoulders of AI. That's the bet everyone's been making. AI is not only where you're going to make your gains, but it's going to be the fundamental technology to change the world. Now, you expand that broader. If this is how the U.S. economy is being built on, then you can basically say the whole entire world economy is built on the hope that AI is going to fundamentally change the world, which is very interesting because obviously we've seen something like this happen in the past, in particular around 2000 with the dot-com bubble. Now, I'm not going to say necessarily that we are going to see an AI bubble crash like the dot-com bubble, but there is some interesting correlations to 2000. So before I get to that, I did mention Saylor isn't the only one saying this. And actually, this is coming from one of my favorite Bitcoiners, Pierre Rochard. He's been saying this basically all week. And when I first saw this tweet, I was like, yo, like, Pierre, I don't know if that's the case. Like, you know, you got a point here, Pierre. It's an interesting case. But I was like, nah, there's probably other factors going on. And so let's go to these tweets to confirm that he's not the only one saying this, that Saylor isn't the only one saying that the AI cycle, AI hype bubble is how I kind of like to call it. It's probably what is sucking up all of the vacuum away from Bitcoin. Again, as we've mentioned on this show, or rather probably as everyone has mentioned, if you are in the quote tech sector, if you are a forward-looking person, there's two technologies right now that most everyone is saying will fundamentally change the world. One has a lot more of the collective mind share of the world's kind of interests. That's AI. And then, of course, from our vantage point, we fundamentally think Bitcoin is a bigger revolution than AI is. But AI is getting all the capital. AI is getting all of the attention. AI has probably up to this point gotten into more people's day-to-day lives than Bitcoin has. Everyone's probably using AI. Now, will it fundamentally be what it's been sold to be? I think it's still up for debate, though. As we've been hearing in the last couple of days, a lot of people are like, yo, you know, AI is way more advanced than we even know. And then the other side, which is probably where I come from, and I might be a Luddite in terms of AI, but I'm like, dude, it's overhyped. I don't really believe that we will see AGI, or what's it, artificial general intelligence. I'm like, dude, language learning machines cannot be intelligent. It's literally like if this, then that. I'm like, there's no intelligence there. Maybe it seems intelligent to like a NPC normie. It's like, oh my God, it's so interesting. It's so smart, man. Like I could never put these words together in these sentences. I'm like, dude, they're not intelligent. We're not seeing AI philosophize. And look, again, I'm not that deep in the AI bubble, but I'm like, we're not seeing AI necessarily create great works of art. You know, great leaps in human knowledge. They are a tool that humans use. Therefore, humans is still the core intelligence of AI. That's kind of my view. Again, maybe it's a 42 IQ, you know, tech Luddite, whatever. But again, like I said, Saylor's not the only one saying this. Here's Pierre Rochard on June 2nd. So this is what, Tuesday. And he goes, over the past 12 months, the AI boom has added $19 trillion of new market cap to the top 50 public equities. That's 13x Bitcoin's total market cap. This historical CapEx cycle is vacuuming up all liquidity and attention. So it's astonishing that Bitcoin and USD is this resilient, which is something I have echoed since the start of the war. The fact that we are seeing Bitcoin hold up, well, maybe before we saw the current price crash last night, was super interesting. Though it still falls into the realm of if Bitcoin stays between 60 and 80K, and channels and goes sideways, then, you know, we're probably not going to go that low. Though I did do a, you know, a troll drive-by this morning. I'm like, morning cope, higher low. Runs away. We still got a higher low, guys. So if we don't go any lower, hey, I'm not gonna lie, maybe it's still kind of bullish. But the point remains the same. Literally, no one is buying Bitcoin, guys. Or put another way, it doesn't take that much selling to crash the price when literally no one is buying Bitcoin. Something I've been saying for a while. Look, as much as I'm a huge fan and advocate for all of us just DCAing Bitcoin every day, every week, every month, whatever works with your income and how much money you have left over, our DCAs do not push the price anymore. We are not in control of the price. So literally, it's like no one's buying Bitcoin. And I do have some charts to back this up. But before I get to that, Pierre Rochard did go on further. And this was, I believe, okay, this was yesterday night. Pierre goes on to say more. And he goes, Bitcoin is a hedge against uncertainty. And the market is very certain about one thing. AI will absorb the next decade of capital, earnings growth, power demand, semiconductor demand, data center build out, and productivity upside. Bitcoin crash has nothing to do with Saylor or Iran. Now, the first tweet, when I heard that, you're like, okay, big numbers, interesting case, Pierre. Like, I haven't really seen that many people say this. I think there's something to that. This second tweet here, I think really elaborates a lot more on what we are seeing in the broader market. And it is one thing. Everyone is completely certain that AI is going to completely change the game. So where is everyone putting their money? It's in AI, whether it is like we saw in the stocks, in the semiconductors, in the data center build-outs. Again, the U.S. economy is basically being driven, or rather, maybe put another way, AI is keeping the U.S. economy from failing. Now, of course, that is a very simplistic way of putting this, but that's pretty much the case. Everyone is certain AI is going to change the world. So if that is what the prevailing narrative is that AI, that's where I need to put my money, then that's where the capital will flow. And as I keep saying, yes, we haven't really seen much volume going into Bitcoin. Yes, maybe us plebs are out here, us hardcore Bitcoiners, which is a very small minority, are still DCAing constantly. We're still buying the dip. But we don't have that much capital. Full stop. I don't know. I don't have the on-chain data for this because it's kind of hard to really get. But I would venture to guess that maybe all of our DCAs up to this point are like, summed up to like maybe $10 million. Like maybe all of us buying what, $10 a day or 100, maybe $1,000 a week. It probably just adds up to about like $10 million of inflows, like a $10 million of buying pressure. It's not much. Okay. It's not that much. Now, what I have been saying for a while also is, for the most part, we've seen pretty strong inflows from the ETFs, and that's been one of the prevailing narratives that maybe we don't like. The ETF inflows are most likely what is driving the Bitcoin price. The institutions buying are most likely what is driving the Bitcoin price. Now, we do have an update on the ETF flows, which it does kind of add to this story when you kind of understand this basic idea, which is what Pierre Rochard tweeted yesterday night and what Saylor tweeted. So to repeat, Bitcoin is a hedge in uncertainty, and the market is very certain about one thing. AI will absorb all of the capital. What did Saylor say? Capital markets are funding the AI build out at historic scale. Now, what have we seen from the ETF inflows, or rather maybe outflows? That Bitcoin spot ETF outflows are on a record-setting 13-day streak of consecutive outflows, and we see that $4 billion number pop up again. So what is probably going on here? Like, where do we think that the ETF money that was in Bitcoin is flowing out of Bitcoin into? I would argue probably the either S&P 500 or into AI stocks and semiconductors and data center buildouts. I think, again, this is me just kind of maybe gut level getting and doing a little bit of mind reading of the institutional investor. Again, it's pretty simple. Bitcoin hasn't really done anything. S&P 500's ripping. AI stocks are ripping. They're like, yo, not necessarily I need to get out in full of Bitcoin. I need to get completely out of Bitcoin, but maybe I need to take some of my chips off the table from Bitcoin and start adding it into these other stocks and equities. Now, with that in mind, Eric Balchunas did tweet about the very same thing. And again, he does, and rather, he's got a really good, or he does really good on Twitter of kind of framing what is actually happening in the grand scheme of things. So even though we are seeing 13 consecutive ETF days or red session days, outflow session days, and $4 billion leaving the ETFs, in the grand scheme of things, the ETFs have held up very well. Put another way, the boomer ETF Bitcoin buyers do in fact have pretty strong hands. They understand what they're holding. Now, here is Eric Balchunas, again, senior advisor, senior analyst at Bloomberg, senior ETF analyst at Bloomberg. He goes, bad times, Bitcoin ETFs is in a big step back mode. 4.4 billion out over past month, which sent the year-to-date number negative again. It had worked hard to get positive too, but that said, a silver lining, the IBIT and a few other ETFs are still positive year to date. Unreal. And total net lifetime is still $55 billion plus, less than $10 billion from high water mark. Not bad at all for this type of drawdown and negative sentiment. Gold went down like this for a few years after GOD debuted, and 40% of the assets left. Much stronger holders here so far in the Bitcoin ETFs. But yeah, to quote Henry Hill, this is the bad time. So, hey, we're in a bear market, okay? We're in a bear market. It is what it is. As, again, putting the AI picture into this conversation, it does make sense. You're seeing relative, big numbers flow out of the ETFs. Total numbers, not too bad, maybe close to 10% of the ETF outflows compared to how much the ETFs actually hold. And where are they probably going to go to try to find some alpha? I would argue it's probably in AI stocks, semiconductors, data center buildouts, S&P 500. Again, we are all feeling this right now. We're all sitting here like, man, everything is ripping and Bitcoin is dying. Like, the decoupling is happening the wrong way. What is going on here? Why didn't I just buy everything else but Bitcoin? I'm such an idiot. I just bought Bitcoin. I still think Bitcoin's going to go up, but I'm just saying that is the common sentiment. We're all looking at everything else and we're like, man, doesn't feel good when Bitcoin dips and everything starts ripping. We're like, man, I thought the decoupling was going to happen a different way. I thought everything else was going to crash and Bitcoin was going to rip. Well, again, it's almost reminding me of the Omega candle. We're like, yo, Bitcoin's going to get an Omega candle, 10K candle. We're going to be happy. What happened? We got a 10K candle down. First 10K candle was to the downside. We definitely decoupled from our own memes and ideology, and Bitcoin crashed. Well, now we're seeing something pretty similar in terms of the broader decoupling narrative, where at a certain point, Bitcoin's going to break from stocks and treasuries and gold and silver, and it's going to rip and everything is going to go down. Well, reality is a cruel mistress, and in fact, everything is ripping, but Bitcoin dumped. Again, maybe something did break on 1010. Thank you, Binance. But going further, again, I said I will show you on chain that no one's buying. That I think is the broader conversation. Like, literally, dude, guys, no one is buying Bitcoin right now. Okay, everyone is scared. Everyone always says, "Oh, I'm going to buy the dip." Then the dip comes, and either we are out of cash, which I do have. I don't know if you guys saw Dave Portnoy, but we're going to play Dave Portnoy in the numbers today just because he cracks me up. But he's saying the same thing, you know, like, who's got money to buy Bitcoin right now? Though he said more, and it's atrocious. But literally no one's buying Bitcoin right now, okay? Everyone says the same thing. When it dips, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. It dips, they're scared, they don't buy Bitcoin. Or if you are a true believer, it dips and you're like, I've bought in 47 million dips at this point and I have no more cash. Where do you get the cash to buy Bitcoin? Well, check out the on-chain data based on the blocks charts here. And this is just spot Bitcoin, okay? So spot Bitcoin monthly exchange volume, as you can see, is basically as low, actually lower. Is it lower? Yep. Lower than 2020. I got to go back to about literally 6 years ago. June 2020 levels. You can see here, at least as of now, and this chart showing us, where is it? June. Oh, it won't show us the June numbers yet because it hasn't finished, but incomplete monthly data so far, which is the beginning of the month. So about $127 billion of Bitcoin being bought on exchanges. Now, actually, that's just total volume. So that's buying and sold. 250 billion. All right. We'll use that number. 250 billion, which is about let's see. I don't know, 2020 levels. It's crazy. Okay. Now, look at this chart on the right, the daily exchange volume. Look at where we currently stand. Again, this is all time. We are seeing the 7-day moving average of volume about $32 billion. Got to go back. Yes, we saw kind of some lows in 2023, about 13 billion. And let's see, 2021, when we crashed, 33 billion. You know, 2020, about 17 billion. Like, then no one's buying Bitcoin, okay? The volume is not there. So it's not taking a lot of Bitcoin to really crash the price right now because no one's buying Bitcoin. Okay? No one, there's no volume. Like, the buying has disappeared. And what is this probably? I'm going to venture to argue, one, yes, we are seeing some selling. Obviously, we've seen the selling from the public Bitcoin miners. We've seen some selling from the Bitcoin treasury companies. We've obviously been in a prolonged process of OG selling Bitcoin. You know, now we're probably in a people panicking and selling out because they've been holding for so long. And it's like, what am I doing here when everything is ripping in AI and S&P 500 is going up at all-time high, NASDAQ's going up at all-time high. It's like, what am I doing holding this useless, you know, digital pet rock, as they used to say. Now, my overall view of this, and I'm not the only one saying this, is I am fundamentally of the idea that we are currently in an AI bubble. I think the AI hype is just that, overhyped. Now, does that mean that AI is going to go away? No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is I think we are seeing some very high overvaluations. I think we're seeing a lot of speculation in AI. It does feel like a bubble in AI stocks and, you know, investments. Now, if I was just the one saying this, you know, you could totally ignore it. But I have seen even the AI guys themselves. I saw David Sachs say something similar. He's been tempering his AI shill. Obviously, us Bitcoiners are like, look, all the capital is going to AI. It's just no one's buying Bitcoin. But we even seen Ray Dalio say this. Now, of course, I'm usually on the fence with Ray Dalio. Like, yes, I respect him as an OG investor that's been in the game longer than I've been alive. And yes, sometimes he is a little doomerish and like everything's going to crash. It's so over. I don't know if you guys saw that Michael Burry tweet. Michael Burry's back, of course, the big short guy, basically calling NVIDIA Enron and saying that the financial balance sheet tricks they are doing is the same thing that Enron is doing. So maybe this is just engagement tweeting. You know, people are just trying to get headlines, but there is a very recent sentiment shift around AI and basically calling AI a bubble. And here is literally Ray Dalio saying this exact thing. The pricking is coming. Dalio warns AI bubble will burst like .com, but tech will endure. Just reading a little bit. Dalio appeared on Bloomberg TV today and delivered a measured yet cautionary assessment of the AI investment frenzy. He highlighted classic bubble dynamics, sky-high valuations, rampant speculation, and, quote, paper wealth vastly outpacing actual cash flows while drawing direct parallels to the 2000.com era. Again, I think even Dalio isn't going to say, like, AI hype bubble is going to crash tomorrow. What everyone is saying is it does look like there is a bubble in AI. Hence why when I bring this up today, it does color this conversation a little bit because no one is buying Bitcoin. Everyone is chasing this AI hype bubble, literally at all-time highs. And I've been joking recently, basically saying that, look, everyone called Bitcoin the tulip mania. But in fact, the real tulip mania is AI, and we all know how that ended. It burst like the AI, or sorry, like the .com bubble. Now, I did see this chart, and, you know, you could speculate that maybe this chart is, you know, fear porn or doomerism, but it is very interesting, okay? So this chart, which is the IXIC and the US M2 money supply. So the IXIC is the NASDAQ composite chart. And if you're looking at this chart, you see obviously the .com bubble in 2000 and you see AI, you know, it's higher than it was in the .com bubble. Now, you could argue that maybe it's inflation. You know, I've seen some people basically say that, oh, the difference between the .com bubble and the AI bubble is that nothing, you know, all of these companies were overvalued in the .com and, you know, pet.com, it had no real utility, but AI's got the real utility. And this is basically a new breed of tech companies. And I'm like, you know, maybe you're right. And I do kind of agree with Ray Dalio where it's like, I don't think AI is going to go away. I think AI will endure, but I think a lot of the companies that are currently in the lead of AI, you know, the brand names for AI, like they might not last this if we are in an AI hype bubble. So this is what people are saying. So I went over here on TradingView and you can see that in fact, the IXIC and the US M2 chart, does look pretty crazy. Let me see what's going on here. So here you go. We're way higher. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like, oh, sorry, I didn't pull it up. It's nuts. Like, are we in a bubble? I would say so. It does feel like we're in a bubble. All the money is going to AI stocks and semiconductor stocks. And the numbers do feel like the U.S. economy numbers do feel padded. Trump can go out there and basically say, like, we got the best economy ever. We got the best stock market ever. We hit new all-time highs every, 10 times. But on Main Street, everyone feels poorer than ever. So where is all that money going? It's going into the AI. Yeah, they can roll out these numbers and say we're wealthier than we've ever been. But the wealth is going to AI. It's not coming to Main Street. We don't feel wealthier. The divide between the haves and the have-nots is getting even crazier. We're seeing, excuse me, insane IPO valuations. Like the SpaceX IPO, excuse me, is valued at like $2 trillion. In comparison, I think, here, let me see if I have this. I saw this tweet the other day. Let's see. SpaceX IPO, Microsoft IPO. Just so you can put in context just how huge this IPO is and these valuations are. Oh, wait, what's going on? It's insane. This SpaceX valuation is absolutely nuts in comparison to other. Why can I? Let me see if I can find this real quick on the show, live on the show. Forgive me, I should have brought this up, but I didn't know I was going to be talking about this. I guess I don't have it. All right. Well, bummer. Just, I guess you'll have to take my word on this. The valuations are absolutely insane. This $2 trillion SpaceX IPO is nuts in comparison to some of the companies that we use every single day, like Microsoft and Amazon and Apple. It's way, way, way bigger. Now, with that idea, do we really think that SpaceX is more valuable than all of the tech giants that we use every single day? Like, yeah, you know, sending rockets is cool. Super cool idea. But personally, to me, in my life, I don't really see the value of humans going to Mars. Like, I don't really care about Mars, okay? I'm worried about here on planet Earth. On planet Earth, we have problems. So, yes, maybe you guys can have a huge valuation for the idea of going to Mars, but, like, this doesn't help me at all. Okay, maybe you could say that, oh, this is for the longevity of the human species. Like, cool story, bro, but I want to fix the here and now. I don't really care about hundreds of years from now if we are potentially on the trajectory of like human extinction on planet Earth. Like, yeah, cool. Yeah, we can be a space, you know, exploring species, but we're all going to be dead in 10 years. Like, what the? I don't care. I really don't care about Mars. Okay. Even if we could get to Mars in my lifetime, I don't want to go to Mars. All right. So personally, I get it. You know, SpaceX, super cool idea. Yes, they're launching rockets. Yes, maybe some of that valuation, $2 trillion valuation, is because they are doing cool shit. But it does feel like it's overvalued. And I don't think I've covered it on the show, but they literally changed the rules for the SpaceX IPO. And now it's going to be a part of everyone's 401k. So the SpaceX early investors are literally going to dump on everyone's 401k right when it goes live. No price discovery mode. It's just going straight into everyone's 401k. We're basically, well, I don't have a 401k, but if you do hold a 401k, you are basically lining the pockets of the SpaceX investors. And I'm not against investors. Okay. I'm a capitalist. You know, if you took the best bet on SpaceX and Elon Musk, like I do think you should profit on it. But I don't think that it should be put into everyone's 401k in price discovery mode. I think we probably shouldn't have changed the rules. Well, I'm saying we, like I'm in charge of this. But yeah, they probably shouldn't change the rules to profit all of the SpaceX investors so that they can find liquidity to profit on in everyone's 401k. All right. Anyways. Why am I rambling right now about this? Because what we are seeing is there does seem to be some kind of bubble brewing. And obviously, we can always attribute that to the money is broken. So this is why everything of assets and even commodities and stuff are at the prices they are. It's because no one can use the money. This is why I keep constantly going back to Trump saying the entire world is a casino. Everyone is gambling right now. And the gambling is getting to such a point that maybe we go back to a similar 2000 or 2008 moment where the adults in the room have gambled so bad that they have to subsidize those losses, or rather socialize those losses, where they can get all the money. They can get richer and richer and richer. But when they mess up, the public has to, foot the bill. So where we currently stand, and I stand by this, there's just no volume, no liquidity going to Bitcoin. And actually, I was looking at the ISM Yeah, I know everyone's been kind of touting this chart, and I'll keep it moving here. I just realized I've been rambling 30 minutes alone. It's crazy. Remember this chart, the ISM, 40 minutes. Oh my God, 40 minutes on this. That's crazy. I guess people like it. Okay. So remember the ISM, the what is it's the production chart. Here, actually, let me look it up because I'm blanking on it. ISM chart. What's it stand for? United States ISM manufacturing PMI. Okay, so the manufacturing. So essentially, as we've noticed, we've been in contraction from 23 till basically the beginning of this year. And we've seen since then, we are in a contraction phase from January to now. It's actually contracting even more. And everyone's been looking at this chart and saying, oh, Bitcoin has never not gone to an all-time high when ISM is in extraction, when the economy is extracting. Wow, why does that sound weird to me? When the economy is expanding, Bitcoin has never not hit an all-time high. And everyone's like, look, ISM's expanding again. We are no longer in contraction. We're above that 50-point level. But where is that capital going? It's not finding Bitcoin. It's finding AI. So again, everyone wants to blame Saylor for the price crash. And yeah, maybe you can attribute some of this negative price action to Saylor selling. But again, the numbers of him selling is like absolutely nothing. And everyone's now saying, again, as I've been saying all week, Saylor's going to blow up. And I'm like, I don't think you understand how much money he actually has. And I'm pretty sure he's good. But what we can say, and I think it's very obvious at this point, is everyone is chasing the AI hype or AI bubble or AI gains, however you want to say it. And on chain, it's showing us no one is buying Bitcoin right now. So for you guys out there, what does this mean? Dude, Bitcoin is still so undervalued. It's absolutely crazy. People are still sleeping on Bitcoin. Is crazy to me. It's like Bitcoin is, in my opinion, Bitcoin is the biggest technology shift that we are going to be seeing in this decade and probably the next. But everyone is caught up on the new shiny thing, which is AI. And to be fair, we have seen a lot of Bitcoiners go into AI. As I've been saying, the public Bitcoin mining companies that have sold a lot of Bitcoin, where are they going? Into the AI. So there's a lot of data points to point and look at that are showing us that all of the capital that is leaving Bitcoin is finding its way into AI. So take that as you will. 2 points remain the same. No one is buying Bitcoin, and we're seeing a huge amount of capital going into AI. And we are both in the tech sector, at least in the broader conversation. So it looks like AI is taking all of the attention right now. If it does pop, obviously that's going to be very bad for the entire economy or global economy. But I would argue a lot of that capital would probably find its way into Bitcoin. And then maybe then we start to go up again. Or you could just be like 4-year cycle. This is, Opti's coping. It's going to go down to whatever, 40K, and we'll start running up again in October. We always want to look at something to blame, but I think there's more truth to this than just trying to avoid responsibility for dropping the price. Anyways, I've rambled way too long on this. Dude, how do I talk about something for 45 minutes? What's Down Under Blues always says, like, Opti is literally the best at talking forever about nothing. Look, I don't think that was nothing. I think that was pretty good. Anyways, today's show, I got a honestly absolutely hilarious Dave Portnoy clip. I got to play that for you guys. Dave Portnoy, the lettuce hand Dave Portnoy himself. Respect him on the Barstool Media front, but what's his name? Davey Day Trader. Worst trader ever, bro. Yo, it's not that hard. Just buy Bitcoin and chill. And then we did see some interesting stuff happen coming out of Charles Schwab. Looks like they want to trade Bitcoin all day, every day. Back to the idea, Bitcoin is changing Wall Street. It's not necessarily Wall Street changing Bitcoin. And then what do I have in the, oh yeah, and then in the culture, we never talked about it on the show, but I'm sure you guys heard about it. There was a court case in Southern District of New York where some guy basically was suing, claiming that he owned like the Satoshi coins and all of these coins. And it brought up this whole conversation of, well, you know, can you call a claim on something that isn't yours? But further, it brought up the conversation of how much lost coin is really out there. And then we got a pretty interesting change in this conversation this week, which kind of points to, at least in my mind, that there might be a lot less lost Bitcoin than we even think. So, layout for today's show. First commercial break, and I'll be right back. Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
Yeah. David Rio says Mars should be a penal colony. Honestly, I endorse that message. I would back Mars, the whole Mars SpaceX project, if that was the case. Yeah, let's just ship all the what were they calling them? What did Yuval Harari call us? The useless eaters, the all the unwanted. Let's just ship them into space and go to Mars, dude. Then maybe the Earth would be a paradise. Oh man, that's so bad. Nico would be so pissed. Yeah, dude, that's such a good idea. Honestly, best idea I've heard ever. Maybe then we could have good cities again. Though it would collapse GDP because a lot of the labor would be gone. So, you know, trade-offs. Better cities, crashing GDP. Maybe it'd be a recession, but hey, let's get all the unwanted to Mars. All right, anyway, sorry. I thought that was hilarious. Current Bitcoin price, $63,020. Bros, it's over. No, dude, officially 50% discount. Let's go. If you like Bitcoin at all-time high, you're gonna love it on a what's Black Friday? Isn't there like a Thursday sale? I forget what the Thursday sale. Anyways, you're gonna love it on a fire sale of 50% off, dude. Who doesn't love your favorite thing at half off? It's almost like a buy Yeah, buy one, get one free right now from all-time high. Buy one, get one free all-time high sale going on right now. Market cap 1.26. Wow. All right, block height 952,375. Man, what a time. What a time to be alive. All right, so our boy, maybe your boy. Maybe it's your boy. Dave Portnoy. The Dave Portnoy saga is the saga that just keeps on giving. His Davey day trader persona just taking L's. Though, again, I do respect Dave Portnoy in what he built with Barstool Sports. I think that's undeniable. Barstool Sports is awesome. I mean, I don't really watch it, but like he built something cool that people love. And to be fair, like we're kind of like doing a Barstool Sports here at Simply Bitcoin. Like Simply Bitcoin is kind of like a Barstool Sports kind of, you know, knockoff. If I'm being kind of honest, like we don't really look at what Barstool Sports is doing and whatever, but he did pioneer the idea. It's a proof of concept, I would say, and Simply Bitcoin is kind of a Barstool Sports kind of thing. Now, will we ever be able to get to a Barstool Sports level? Who knows? That's the fun of this. We don't know what's going on, but we got a recent update on his Bitcoin journey, and it's kind of brutal. I'm not going to lie, but I think two things of this. Obviously, we will talk about his portfolio moves, and two, I think this is a pretty good view into the psyche of a lot of people in Bitcoin. If you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, I have a lot of friends that have been in Bitcoin for like over a decade. They're still here. They're still tweeting, and they're like, yo, this is just another day in Bitcoin. But for the newer people, you might be feeling very similar to Dave Portnoy if you've gotten in Bitcoin. I don't remember when he got in. Is it like 2024? Maybe earlier. Let's see. Dave Portnoy Bitcoin. Actually, here, I will search this. Let's watch this clip, and I'll search it when on the back end. So Dave Portnoy's recent update, Davey Day Trader's recent update on his Bitcoin journey. And it's kind of hilarious and sad at the same time. So here we go.
Crypto's a little on sale right now. It's a lot on sale. It's a lot on sale. The last week has been a friggin' disaster. And this is true. Marcus dip. People panic. I'm panicking. All right. And his hat white up. If people want to know, I'm panicking. Like people panic, I'm panicking. And when you panic, when there's blood in the streets, that's when you buy. That's when you have to have the diamond hands. That's when you have to be like, all right, everyone else is bailing, jumping overboard. I'm saying crypto, it's at 63,000 XRP, $1.17. That's the two I own. I own a ton of Bitcoin, a good amount of XRP, and I'm losing millions. I'm losing millions. I bought MSTR like a week ago when it was already crashing. MicroStrategy, I'm like, all right, it's going to be, I'm losing millions. I'm at Saratoga on the track. I'm betting nothing matters. It's like, oh, I lost this race. I lost that race. I won this race. I won that race. Doesn't matter. I'm getting hammered in crypto. I cannot, I have not made a cent in crypto. I've gotten whacked in crypto. Some things are like oil and water. And me and crypto are oil and water. Now, I'm not going to sell. I'm going to hold. I'm scared. You have people on my timeline being like, Dave, this is when you buy. Other people like, it has no utility. It's going to zero. I had dinner one time with Jack from X, who originally had X, right? Jack was originally the X guy. He's like, it's going to $1 million. I don't know what's going on. But if you have diamond hands and you have some nuts and some balls, crypto is on sale. Markets dip. People panic. I'm panicking. Suddenly everyone was a genius trader 2 months ago acting like the world's ending. I'm acting like the world's ending. Market is strong. Crypto not strong. Meanwhile, smart ones doing the opposite, buying the dip. I bought the dip, and how I can't keep buying the dip. I have no money left to buy the dip. The dip, great. What do I buy the dip? Well, what am I going to pay for the dip? If I keep buying the dip, it keeps dipping. You got no money to buy the dip. You're out of dip. But if you have dry powder, buy the dip.
Yeah, man. Look, I'll give him some credit. He's still entertaining. That is. Hold on. That's still, bro. It's so entertaining. So entertaining. But yeah, look. Well, I guess before. No, here. Let me skip on down the road. I agree. I will bring up your comment. There is a good point there, but I did, as I said I was going to do. While that clip was playing, I did search and find when that Dave Portnoy and Winklevoss video came out. I think if you've been in Bitcoin for a while, you totally remember this. If you're kind of newer to Bitcoin, maybe you haven't seen it, but there's this infamous clip of Dave Portnoy with the Winklevoss twins, who are behind the Gemini exchange, of course, famously of Facebook. And they literally do the worst Bitcoin show ever. They do the whole they're going to eventually mine gold from asteroids. It's going to crash crash the gold price. This is why you need Bitcoin. And you could just tell that Dave Portnoy was just like, what in the hell are these guys smoking? Like, this is the craziest shit I've ever heard in my life. But anyways, I'm not going to break down the whole video. You can find it on the internet if you want. Later on, there's a funny clip of Dave Portnoy reacting to that video. And he's like, dude, I was more confused than before I got in. So obviously, I think a lot of this is based on the idea that Dave Portnoy probably doesn't fully understand Bitcoin. And I would also attribute that to a lot of the Bitcoiners that tried to shill it to him. So it is partly our fault, I would say. But 2020. And I've been seeing some of you guys in the chat say something similar. It's like, look, I've been in Bitcoin for 5 years. I thought you guys used to say that if you buy Bitcoin, you just got to hodl for 4 years and your life's going to be completely changed. Well, in the recent years, we did kind of have to update that to like, it's not just one cycle anymore. It's probably going to have to be 2 cycles, which isn't the sexiest sell of saying, yeah, probably going to have to stack Bitcoin and wait about 8 years and your life will be completely different. You'll be in a way better place than you were in the start of this. And I can only attribute that to I've done it. And again, I'm of all right, being serious, maybe above average IQ. You know, I like to say 42 IQ, but maybe above average IQ. Okay. In all seriousness, I'm not a genius. I didn't have money when I started Bitcoin. I literally was broke. And I just trusted the process. Just buy Bitcoin, store Bitcoin, and continue to buy Bitcoin. Always buy continuously. Those are the Bitcoin ABCs. That never changes. Just keep buying it. Playing Pac-Man. You guys have all heard this. But let's be honest. If you have bought in Bitcoin in the last 4 or 5 years, it has been brutal. We're basically back to, let me clarify this. We're basically back to what, last all-time high? Well, we're actually under last all-time high. So if you had just bought in Bitcoin, let's see. If you had just bought in Bitcoin once in November of 2021, before it crashed, if you had bought in the top of November 2021 and you only did one buy, you would currently be underwater. That's just the facts of it, okay? You would 100% be underwater right now. And it would be a painful ride because you were expecting, maybe 250K, and that would have made that 69K buy feel good. But if you had listened to the Bitcoiners and you had bought all the way down and all the way up and you had never stopped buying Bitcoin, yes, maybe the initial start price would have been lower than your first buy, but you would have accumulated more Bitcoin throughout that process. And you would, in fact, have more money than you had when you started. So, look, Dave Portnoy does have a point here. He probably has lost money because I'm guessing he just did $1 million smash buy, probably hasn't bought too much more. So, yes, he probably hasn't, quote, gained a cent. Though, as everyone knows, you don't really lose money if you don't sell Bitcoin. All right. I'm not going to nitpick all that. Though where we will kind of laugh at is the Ripple bags. Like, man, I just looked at the Ripple chart for the first time in a long, long time, and it's probably going to go lower, Dave. This is probably going to crash lower, Dave. Where's the last 50 cents? Yeah, you're probably going to lose 2/3 of whatever you have in Ripple. I would probably dump those Ripple bags. You know, if that was me. If I was still holding Ripple, I would probably dump those bags. But the last point of this, and before an hour, dude, this show's going to be super long, whatever. Long show today. It is what it is. I'm rambling. I'm having fun. The last point, or rather the tail end of that video, I think is where most of us are feeling right now. It's like, you keep saying buy the dip. He's like, I have no more money to buy the dip. I've been buying all the dips. I can't buy rent. I can't even buy ramen at this point because I bought in all the dips. It's just part of the game. It is what it is. It's brutal. The last part, though, is kind of interesting where he's like, yeah, people are saying it's got no utility and it's going to zero. And then people that understand it, like Jack Dorsey, say it's going to $1 million. And I think that's probably the signal here. If you are in Bitcoin and your conviction is shaking right now, then what is that telling you? You need to do a little more research into what Bitcoin actually is. There's actually two things here. If this bear market is currently shaking your conviction in Bitcoin, it basically means two things. One, you really don't understand what Bitcoin is. And two, you are probably over leveraged. And further, it could be both. Now, I know in the future, I have said that I don't think everyone's going to have to understand Bitcoin. I think people will just use it. And then secondly, I usually don't recommend leverage at all. But where we currently stand, you do need to understand what Bitcoin is. You got to understand it from a first principle perspective. You got to understand where its role is in the excuse me, the macroeconomic picture. You have to understand what Bitcoin might do to the future for humanity. You need those basic understandings right now. We are not at the point where you're just going to use it and day-to-day normies are going to use it and they don't know that they're using Bitcoin. No, where we currently are, you have to understand what Bitcoin is. And well, let me go back up because there is, again, like I said, a good quote here from skip on down onward. It goes, OG Bitcoiners have the benefit of not only having experienced several cycles, but most are likely financially set for life. So it's easy to be relaxed OG with such wealth and life options. True. I would wholly agree with this. But also, if you've been in Bitcoin for a while, yes, you've been through these cycles, and this cycle isn't really that bad in percentage terms. And maybe you're just an average pleb, someone that's just been stacking for, you know, like I was in 2017, and maybe you don't have life-changing money. Maybe you're not a, billionaire. You're not a crypto billionaire or crypto millionaire, but you do have more wealth than you've ever had before, I would venture to guess, if you have been continuously buying Bitcoin. And that is the silent change. As long as you're saving in Bitcoin, you are not losing purchasing power. You understand what you're holding. You understand the bear markets. You understand the pain. I'm actually kind of, I was saying this to Luke this morning. I'm like, honestly, I'm starting to feel alive again because I was dead inside for so long. And the bear markets are really when you're like, oh yeah, I forgot this feeling. I forgot this soul crushing feeling in the gut of my tummy, where it felt like it was over, but at that same time, I felt alive. I feel alive. I know a lot of people run away from certain emotions. I know people run away from pain and fear, but those are human emotions and they make you feel alive. When you feel the pain, when you feel the fear, you're like, oh yeah, I am a human. I can't just chase pleasure and happiness. I need the roller coaster to feel alive again. That's kind of where I am. I'm like, man, it's so painful. It hurts. I'm tired, boss. I'm tired, but I'm alive. reminds me I'm alive. Anyway, oh, my boy's in the chat. Son of Sats is in the chat. Master your emotions and you will never be in the wrong side. Honestly, dude, wisdom. Okay, all right, my boy with some wisdom. Let's go. All right, bars. All right, commercial break, and I will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. If you ever thought, what happens to my Bitcoin if something happens to me? Or what happens if I lose my phone? You're not alone. For a lot of people, the biggest barrier to self-custody isn't buying Bitcoin. It's the fear of making a mistake. And that's why I like Bitkey and I recommend it to my friends and family. Bitkey is a Bitcoin wallet built for real life. Not just for day one, but for everything that happens in between. Lost devices, upgrades, accidents, and long-term ownership. There's no seed phrase to write down and worry about losing. And no single point of failure that can lock you out of your Bitcoin forever. What really stands out about Bitkey is the peace of mind. Recovery is built in. Inheritance is built in. It's a complete self-custody system built by the team behind Square and Cash App, designed to make holding your own Bitcoin simpler and safer. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today using Bitkey. Go to bitkey.world and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your new Bitkey. That's bitkey.world, promo code SIMPLY.
Sorry guys, I'm gonna do a poll right now. All right. I'm seeing people in the chat say 60K was the bottom. I want to get a sentiment here because actually I can't say it. So let me know in the chat. Hit the poll. Rumble guys, sorry, and Nostr guys, sorry. Just hit me in the chat. Yes, 60K. No, 60K, and I will look at that. I want to get a kind of a vibe check here. So we covered this last week. But what is interesting is this has spread, okay? So remember, I was telling you guys last week, I believe it was last Monday, and then it went live on Friday, that the CME has launched 24/7 crypto futures and options trading. And at the time, I was telling you it's very interesting to see this happen because, one, obviously, stock markets, you know, they open at like 9:30, they close at 5. And then markets close on Friday, and then they open up on Monday, and that now we are going to see market dynamics change a little bit because we're no longer going to be seeing CME gaps. And CME gaps were when the market closed on Friday, obviously Bitcoin trades 24/7. It's a global market. There's no stopping of Bitcoin trading. There's no one to be like, you know, there's no Vitalik to be like, guys, can you please stop trading? It just trades globally 24/7, 365 days a week. Bitcoin doesn't take holidays. It doesn't have open times. It doesn't have close times. If you need to use Bitcoin on a Sunday, you can use it. That's the beauty of it. Bitcoin has what is it, like 99.98% uptime. There was a moment where there was like a bug, you know, in the early days. The only time it's really been down. Since then, it's basically at 100% uptime. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. It's 24/7, 365 days a year. It just runs, keeps going. Well, the CME gap, which is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, they changed their rules. And on Friday, the markets didn't close. So there's no more CME gaps. And usually what you see is that the price would close on Monday and say or sorry, on Friday, and then on Monday, say the spot Bitcoin price ripped. So there would be a gap from the Friday close to the Monday close. And a lot of traders, a lot of DGen, Bitcoin, TA, tea leaf readers would always say, and it did hold up very well, that if there was a CME gap at a certain point, it would be closed. So say there was a gap at 60K, or well, I'm just making numbers here, 60K to 61K, and then the price started running, you would expect that Bitcoin, it would go up, but at a certain point, it would come back down, close that gap, and then it would go back up. And we've seen that happen on the opposite. If there was a gap to the upside, you'd probably see the gap close, and then it could potentially drop, or it could obviously keep going up. Well, that changed on last Friday. CME is now trading 24/7. I don't know if it's necessarily 365. Let's see. Does it say 365? Supporting 24/7 cryptocurrency futures and options trading on CME Globex. Serving clients on a 24/7 base. Yeah, so I guess it's open now. Every single day of the year, all hours, it is open. So one, as I was mentioning last Friday, or rather, sorry, Monday of last week, we are seeing some market dynamics change. No more CME gaps. So that model is broken. But what is interesting is we got this update yesterday. Charles Schwab has now launched 24/7 Bitcoin futures trading on Thinkorswim. So it's near 24/7. So I'm guessing maybe on holidays it might be closed. Marking its first round-the-clock product as it deepens crypto market access. I repeat, first round-the-clock product. And Charles Schwab is one of the biggest, investor houses in the world. Scott, I think it's like 34 million customers. So Charles Schwab taking its most direct step yet into around-the-clock cryptocurrency access, announcing that select cryptocurrency futures, including Bitcoin, are now available to trade nearly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week across all Thinkorswim platforms. Let's check out the press release. Schwab announces latest round of enhancements to retail trading experience. Charles Schwab has enhanced its trading experience and introduced its first 24/7 product for futures trading. I'm trying to see what this near 24/7 means. But again, Charles Schwab, a leader in investing and trading with $12.61 trillion in total client assets and 10.3 million daily average trades, announced they're doing 24/7 trading. So Bitcoin and a couple of shitcoins are now available to trade nearly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I guess we won't know what nearly means, but they're changing. All right. So again, one of the biggest client holders, trading platforms, just launched 24/7 Bitcoin futures and options. Now, we also saw the Chicago Mercantile Exchange do something very similar last week. You could argue that maybe this is them just trying to fleece more money from you because we don't embrace, or rather endorse, degenerate Bitcoin trading. We believe just buy Bitcoin, hold it, save in Bitcoin, use Bitcoin as money. It is your money. It is our money. You want as much of it as possible going into the future. But what is interesting is the idea we've been saying for a very long time that we did not coin, but it's Bitcoin changes you. You don't change Bitcoin. So I had actually my buddy in the chat text me. He's like, dude, we've had so much good news. Why is the Bitcoin price going down? And I was like, well, we've had a lot of bullish Bitcoin news, but at the same time, we've had some bearish Bitcoin price action. And he just responds, lol. But again, we are seeing the undercurrent here, the underbelly of what's going on with Bitcoin. It's never been more bullish. And in the face of this bear market, it makes me feel like, man, I know I said this yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I don't know what day it is, man. I don't know what I say 10 minutes ago, let alone yesterday. But all of the news that we've seen in the last, maybe year and a half since Trump got nominated to be president. And I'm not saying it's because of Trump per se, but since November of 2024, we have seen some incredibly bullish foundations laid for Bitcoin, which I keep saying, and again, I could be wrong. I know my bias is always bull-tarded, but it does feel like all of the very good bullish news, and we've seen institutions changing and bending the knee to Bitcoin, and we see Bitcoin infiltrating basically every corner of planet Earth, or rather, hold on, I did not mean to imply that that the Earth was flat there. Flat earthers in the chat elated. I don't even know how to say it without every corner of planet Earth. We've seen Bitcoin saturate the entire globe. You see that? I'm a globetard. And it does seem that when Bitcoin price does return, like there's going to be such a strong foundation that I think all of our 4-year cycle price appreciation models are 100% going to be undervalued, aka bearish. I think we are all underestimating the next bull run. And even my most bearish friends are like, look, 4-year cycle still intact, but the debate is up whether the next all-time high is going to be a 4-year cycle. And I'm like, wait. Are you saying super cycle? He's like, he said the S word. He said super cycle. I don't know if that's the case, but what I am feeling is that, sorry guys, I'm itching over here. What I am sensing is that Bitcoin is so entangled with all markets at this point, and not only just markets, but the psychology of market investors, that I think when it starts running, we might be seeing something crazy like we saw in 2025 with gold and what we currently are seeing with AI. I think all our models are broken. I think we're going to rip. It's not investment advice. That's just kind of my general take. I think we've seen so much bullish news that when Bitcoin finally hits the gas, or rather when the market makers finally open up the ceiling, this might go nuts. I'm just like seeing all the signs there. Like Bitcoin is actually changing the world. Very slowly, but surely, things are changing. And maybe because we are so enthralled and obsessed with Bitcoin on the day-to-day that we can see this. I don't want to say necessarily clearly because we're bullish and we have our bias. But the day-to-day is brutal in terms of where the price is. But if we look back the last year or two, it's like, man, things have completely changed. It's like 2 years ago, 5 years ago. All right, we'll go with the day point of 5 years ago. If 5 years ago, 2020, the peak of the 2020 crash, you told me that we would be in 80K, that we would have the U.S. embracing Bitcoin, that we would see Wall Street bending the knee to Bitcoin, that we would see a person, an entity by themselves stacking 1 million coins, I'd be like, no way. There's no way that's happening. Though I would be more bullish. I'd be like, it's going to be way higher than 80K or 60K. So, hey, I can't be right all the time, but since 2020, I think a lot of things have changed, and that does make me extremely bullish of where we're going, and I can't wait to see what happens this next run up. I really hope it's not like what we saw in 2021 and 2025. I want to see this rip. I need my fix. I need my fix here. I need my fix. I'm itching for some price action pumping. I need it. We're still early, boys. Let's go. You just gave the flat earthers a happy feeling in their pants. Yes. Bitcoin is changing the world in my head. Dr. Daniel Howell. I think there's more. I honestly, I think you're kind of trolling here, and I think it's a good troll. But that again, remember what I said a couple of weeks ago? I was listening to wow, I can't even remember his name. The Revolution is Televised guy. How am I blanking on him? I love him. Pause. The song, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. And I mentioned this the other day, but I saw this TikTok, and it was basically saying what they meant by that song wasn't necessarily how a lot of people frame it, where like the powers that be will not revolutionize, or sorry, televise the revolution. That's usually how most people frame it. It's like, oh, the powers that be will not spotlight that a revolution against them is happening. That's kind of the mainstream view of this. But they asked him, what do you think, like, what does this song mean to you? And what did you mean when you were writing it? And he was saying that the revolution will not be televised means that the revolution happens in your head first. And so to your point, Dr. Daniel, it's true. Like, it has changed how you view the world. But with that idea of your mind being changed around Bitcoin and how Bitcoin is going to change the world, you are living in the future. And we do, I think, overestimate how fast this is going to happen. And I think at times also underestimate how fast it's going to happen. And it reminds me of, you overestimate what you can do in 2 years, but you underestimate what you can do in 10 years. And I think that's kind of what's going on here, because Bitcoin has fundamentally changed our minds and how we view the world and how hopeful we are for the future. But we do at times, and maybe I won't do the we, I do at times overestimate how fast this is going to happen. But when I look back at it, I'm like, man, I'm wholly underestimating how much has changed and what is happening right now. Like, dude, it's really, really changing. Things are changing. AI is the next logical step in the progression of technology. It will not fail. It's here to stay. I literally said explicitly, I don't think AI is going to fail. I said that some of the name brand companies might fail. I think AI is here. I agree. BTC believer, I agree with you. I need number go down. All right. Anyways, let's talk about some lost coins, or maybe let's talk about lost coins. Let's talk about that. Maybe there's less lost coins than we think. Be right back after the last commercial break.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
All right, guys. So this is an interesting story. I was actually going to maybe do a show about this, but we just had bigger news stories, I would say. And I also was kind of having a hard time packaging this so that you guys would actually click the video. Like, to me, this is interesting. Just the story in and of itself was interesting, but the most recent update, I think, does open up a broader conversation. So what am I talking about here? Of course, shouts out to the Bitcoin Mag team for this article, because I think it does a good job. And the title is Anonymous Plaintiff Seeks Legal Title to $293 billion in dormant Bitcoin without holding any private keys. Again, this was May 28th. So this story in itself is old. Haven't covered it on the show. So I will cover a little bit of the basics of what this legal claim is. And then we got a recent update that I think is kind of the bombshell here. So a pseudonymous claimant, quote, Noah Doe, alongside two Wyoming LLCs, has filed a lawsuit in New York Supreme Court seeking recognition as the rightful owner of 39,069 dormant Bitcoin addresses containing roughly 3.8 million Bitcoin, valued at about $293 billion. Again, this guy, Noah Doe, filed a suit in the New York Supreme Court seeking a court declaration that they are the legal owners of this 3.8 million Bitcoin in roughly 39,000 Bitcoin addresses. The case filed March 11, 2026 and amended May 1st, 2026 is believed to be the first attempt in U.S. history to claim title to Bitcoin under a lost and found property statute. Noah Doe's claimant argues that dormant Bitcoin addresses are, quote, lost property and under that framework are that are lost property under that framework, and that his USB drives of addresses data delivered to the New York PD 17th precinct satisfy the deposit requirement, and that title to all 39,069 addresses vested in him across 3 dates, December 26, 2025, March 31st, 2026, and April 14, 2026. The statute has never been applied to cryptocurrency. Article 7B was written for physical objects that a finder picks up, excuse me, a finder picks up and hands to authorities. The plaintiffs never held private keys to any of these addresses and could not have transferred the coins to the police or to any owner who came forward. That's obviously like a huge knock on the not your keys, not your Bitcoin, but I digress. So the lawsuit targets 39,069 addresses named as the defendants are not a random sample of dormant Bitcoin. According to Galaxy Digital, which published a detailed analysis of the case in May 2026, roughly 21,923 of the defendant addresses carry what researchers call the Satoshi nonce pattern, or an on-chain fingerprint widely attributed to Bitcoin pseudonymous creator Satoshi Nakamoto, or, you know, basically the Satoshi coins. And those addresses alone hold approximately 1.096 million Bitcoin. Also, on the defendants list, one address holding 79,956 or 79,957 Bitcoin stolen in the 2011 Mt. Gox hacks, coins that have been actively tracked by investigators for over a decade, and one address that is a counterparty, quote, burn address, meaning it is provably unspendable and was never controlled by any person. The median defendant address holds 50 Bitcoin, currently worth approximately 3.86 million. The average holds 97.25 Bitcoin, worth around 7.5 million. According to Galaxy's on-chain data, 99.9% of the defendant addresses hold Bitcoin worth considerably more than $10. And that $10 figure is central to the case architecture. The complaint relies on an unnamed expert's opinion that each address was worth less than $10, as is at the time of finding, on the basis that recovering the contents is uncertain. If the addresses were valued closer to their market prices, they would fall into the statute's top bracket, which carries a 3-year police holding requirement. The 1-year shortcut the compliant relies on would not be available. Okay. So, to TLDR this, to give you the short of this, at least from my vantage point, I guess I'm not a lawyer. I can hardly read a court filing. But from my basic understanding of this, this guy, Noah Doe, basically claims that he is the rightful owner to, you know, over 3 million coins on 39,000 addresses. The interesting part about this, or rather the crazy part about this, is he doesn't have the keys to this. He's basically just filing a court order to try to claim, quote, lost property that he never really controlled. And from my, you know, again, layman view of this, it seems like he's trying to just say like, oh, all of this lost Bitcoin here on these addresses, This is now mine because I claim it, which would be crazy precedent. When this came out, I was like, yo, like, one, that is a crazy precedent. Like, what, the state of New York basically going to be like, oh yeah, you own this Bitcoin, and now the Bitcoin network is going to somehow have to hand this over, even though none of us have the keys. It's like, what? This literally doesn't make sense. The other side of me is like, yo, who's this guy think he is? He's just trying to steal a couple million coins, claim he's, you know, now 100 billionaire. Like, yo, this whole court case just stinks. Obviously, it has a little collectivist vibe to it. Okay, that's just my take on this. So that was the story, right? That we were all talking. Well, maybe not all of us, but it was big on social media. You know, about a week or so ago. Was going to do a show about it, but I was like, I don't really know how to frame this. But again, Galaxy Research had done most of the research on this. Now, what is interesting, it's what just happened, which is this. So Galaxy Research goes, a 15-plus year dormant coin has been moved of 35.55 Bitcoin untouched since first received on March 27th of 2011. It just moved in block, attributed to this Noah Doe. So going back here, these very old coins, here's Alex Thorne of Galaxy Digital. These very old coins were served by Noah Doe in the abandoned property case. Apparently, they were not, in fact, abandoned. Oh, wait, sorry, I didn't pull it up. So, what is going on here? One, the case claimed he didn't have the keys to this. Therefore, you would guess that this Noah Doe guy who filed this complaint or this court case wouldn't have been able to move those coins, right? That's kind of the whole idea of this lost property clause. And then at like literally a few days after this kind of made its way on social media and everyone was talking about it, some of those coins magically moved. Now, you could say maybe this is a self-send from Noah Doe, which I don't think is probably the case. I think probably what happened is someone heard about this and maybe they knew that, maybe they could check the addresses and they realized, oh, those are my coins that I've been hodling for 15 years and someone's trying to steal my coins. So I self-send it to a new wallet so those coins move, basically showing that, look, these coins aren't lost. That's just what's going on with this case, right? But I think the broader conversation here is maybe a lot of the coins that we attribute to being lost, and the number's been anywhere between about like 3 to 6 million, quote, lost Bitcoin, therefore making your Bitcoin worth more, because in reality, we don't have actually 21 million Bitcoin that will be circulating. The numbers are probably closer to what, like 15 or 18 million coins in circulation. So even though we do our calculations of how much Bitcoin is going to be worth, we use that 21 million number, but in fact, it's less than 21 million. I mean, by the code itself, it'll be 20.9999999 million Bitcoin that will ever be in circulation. But now we are seeing in the last year or so, and I've been kind of hinting to this and bringing this idea up, that I think we might be overestimating how much lost coin is out there. And by that, I mean, I think we're underestimating how many people are still hodling Bitcoin. Not that they have a forced hodl, that they're locked out of their Bitcoin account, but that people had bought in Bitcoin in 2011 and they are still holding that Bitcoin today. They have extremely high conviction. They understand what they're holding. They don't want to sell out. So even though we've seen in the last year, we've seen a pretty big narrative around OG selling Bitcoin, which we've been able to track on chain. With this new court case or this new lost and found case, some old coins have been waking up. And before this even hit the news, we saw some old coins start to move and start to wake up and not necessarily just hit the exchanges. not necessarily just go into collateralized loans. So when I hear this, you know, obviously the initial story is kind of like insane. Someone's just trying to claim Bitcoin and use the courts and use the state to steal Bitcoin that they never bought, that they never actually held the keys to. And what precedent would that set? But further, that in this process, we found out that, yeah, there's some OG holders that have been holding Bitcoin for 15 years, which brings up the broader conversation to me that maybe that 3 million, you know, being conservative here, most of that might not be lost. Yes, there is lost Bitcoin. We know for a fact there's lost Bitcoin. I think every one of us has maybe messed up with a wallet, and at the very least, it was a couple thousand sats. But in the early days, there's probably people that messed up wallets and it was like 50 Bitcoin, you know, like significant money now. So, and we know for a fact, Satoshi, well, it's not necessarily a fact, but we know the common view is that Satoshi is in control of 1 million plus Bitcoin. And who knows if Satoshi will ever come back. Maybe Satoshi is no longer with us on planet Earth and those Bitcoin are never going to move. Maybe he burnt the keys to those Bitcoin. So for all intents and purposes, we know 1 million Bitcoin are gone. I don't want to say for sure, but we can very safely, I think, all agree that 1 million Bitcoin at the minimum are probably lost. Maybe it gets as high as 3 to 6 as everyone kind of speculates. But in this is a seed of the true conviction of some Bitcoiners that have been holding Bitcoin for years. Hold on. I hope you don't hear that. I'm getting blown up. I'm getting blown up. Stop calling me. Anyways, it's interesting. There might not be as much lost coins as we attribute. There might just be some OG holders of Bitcoin that have been holding for a long time, really showing us the ways, guys. So yes, maybe, you know, the 4-year cycle hodl, maybe that's broken. Maybe you got to do 2 cycles, but maybe, just maybe, you got to follow the lead of the OGs and just hold it for 15 years and you're going to be good to go. Okay, guys. Well, I'm getting blown up. No proof of work in that lazy claim. For reals, dude. It's crazy. You know, proof of work is a lifestyle. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, guys. On that note, have a good rest of your day. I gotta pop off. I'm getting blown up. I guess I gotta go do some other work. God, look, I ramble for an hour and 40 minutes and I'm getting blown up about doing other work. No rest for the wicked here. Anyways, guys, have a good rest of your day. Eat good, sleep good, work out good. Stack some sats. That's the sign off for today. I will see you tomorrow. Last show of the week. We made it through another week. Well, hold on. I'm not going to be premature on that one. We almost made it through the week. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's see what kind of crazy stuff happens. Opti's pagers. Hey, yo, pause, David. That's dark. Bottin isn't a real word. Bottin Bitcoin. That's not a real word. Damn, dude. Siri autocorrect is literally making me dumb. Guys, I can feel myself getting dumber. Dude, AI. You know what AI, this is my son off. You know what AI is doing? You know how AI is going to really change the world? We're just all going to get dumber. We are going to live in, damn, what's that one movie? The one where everyone's dumb and Terry Crews is the president. Damn. Case in point. AI is making me dumber. I am dumber. Okay, I made it up a word. Sue me. Had bought or has bought. Okay. Has bought Bitcoin. What would I say? If you would have bought Bitcoin. Idiocracy. There we go. Thank you, Space Pirate. Space Pirate gets it. Yeah, and Wally. Idiocracy and Wally. That's our future. Thank you, AI. That's what we can look forward to. That's what we could be optimistic about, is living in Idiocracy and or in Wall-E. Man, the future is going to be so bright. All right. Love you guys. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.